So there's a new sense of wellness. I know that the same person who walked in this place will not be the same person who walks out of this place. And we're going to up-level our level of wellness today. And so we're welcoming, we're empowering, we're nurturing, we're being of service to this instrument, this body that we carry around. And I had a friend of mine, we were talking about wellness, and she says, you know, we're all animals. Yeah, we are. We have this finely tuned instrument of being these people. We are these people, and we're finely tuned like a musical instrument. So we can come more into tune and fine-tune our wellness today as we walk out this door. So that's our charge, that we can live a lifestyle that's optimal. We can live a lifestyle that's well. And to know that gratitude opens up the door. We're in a month of gratitude, and that gratitude opens up the door for even more wellness, to welcome that lifestyle, to welcome that liveliness, to nurture that, and to finely tune, finely tune. How about fine tune? Fine tune that. And we're in a new thought philosophy, and our philosophy, our faith, a way of life, was founded by Dr. Ernest Holmes, which is a guide for spiritual living. And it's a philosophy that says that all is good, all is well, all is good, all is well with my soul and my heart. And as we have an attitude of gratitude, as we know that what we adore creates more, what we adore creates more in our life of the same. We then resonate with that and nurture that and begin to enliven that in our hearts and our minds. So we're invited this month to stay in that sweet spot, to stay in that sweet spot of wellness, to stay in that sweet spot of wholeness, and to have our attention stayed on that, on the wellness of who we are. William Ward said that God gave us a gift of 86,400 seconds today. All those seconds. And how many of those have we used to focus rather than on what's ill in our life, on what's well in our life? How many of those have we focused on what's we're grateful for in our life? How many of those seconds have we said thank you to ourselves? And how many of those seconds have we said thank you to others? So how am I being in the world? We have a book of the month which allows us a spiritual practice, a gratitude practice, which we engaged last week. And we ask ourselves to write one note every day. It could be a note to ourselves of gratitude. It could be a note to a family member, like a handwritten note you get at the dollar store with a stamp that you remember those postage stamps? You put the stamp on it and mail it to a friend, a family member, a neighbor. And it's beautiful because we're in a season of gratitude, and especially with the holidays coming up, those holidays or those holy days, we can have a more sense of wholeness, holy days with an H, more sense of a wholeness in our life. So we can handwrite thank you notes, one per day. And guess what? There's 30 days in the month. So I think we'll spend all of $3 plus plus some stamps. But it's the heart. So it's not necessarily about the receiver of those notes so much, but it's more of a practice for me. It's a practice for me to give from that place of gratitude and to realize even more of that in my life. We also have a practice of visioning and envisioning our optimal lifestyle. And next Sunday at 12:30, Kamatara Johnson, our newly licensed practitioner, we will be welcoming her into the fold this afternoon. We won't keep you here till this afternoon, but this. But we're looking forward to honoring her and celebrating her. We'll be having a life visioning class after the discussion group next Sunday, and what that does is that optimizes our lifestyle. and it becomes even more the divine ideal, less than just that human idea. So we bring that spiritual nature to our human needs. And we can say, thank God I'm well. No matter what is going on. To some degree, I have some Skype clients, and she was realizing that she was really having a health challenge. And so we were working through that in affirmative prayer and realizing her sense of wellness even more deeply and even more fully. And she got done with this whole litany of things, and gently with love and kindness. And and I'm always talking to myself, right? I'm always talking to myself as I'm with people. I'm always learning something. I sometimes wake up to a whole new world every day. Anyone else do that? There's some new ideals I can incorporate. I said, now that you've shared everything in the world that's wrong, what is right? What is well with you in your world? What is well? And she came up, well, I can walk, I can talk, I can sense, I can smell, I can taste. I have delicious friends in my life. I adore people. I really can have some quality time and quality experiences no matter what this condition is. So she was having an optimal lifestyle and wellness amidst what was going on. So I invite us to have that same sense of wellness on a deeper level. And what's true is some of the research says that 10% of our genes determine the future of our health, and that it's 90%. There's a study called the Danish twin study. Now, it's not about Danish twins, but there's a Danish twin study that says there's 90% may be determined by our genes of our lifestyle and our wellness, and 90% by our lifestyle. So there's a study called The Blue Zones by Dan Buettner, and he has studied people in Sardinia, Okinawa, and even in our backyard in Loma Linda, California. He found that more people in those areas live to be centenarians. They live to be 100 or more years old. So what are the commonalities? What are those things that we can all aspire to and eliminate what's standing in the way? To eliminate what's standing in the way of our life, and then to nurture that optimal lifestyle. So they discovered in this study called the Blue Zones, he teamed up with National Geographic. I always wanted to be a National Geographic photographer. Didn't you too? How many people wanted to be a National Geographic photographer? Me too. They studied the world's longest longevity. Yeah, I would love to follow this guy around too. He's kind of cute. Dan, we'll just call him Dan because we're on a first name basis now. So this talk is on TED.com if you want to hear more of his study. But we'll give you the Cliff's Notes version. You ready for that? Yeah. Cliff's Notes that we can take with us? What he found were common. He identified these zones of gentlemen who they didn't smoke, they stayed physically active, they kept socially engaged, much like us being here in spiritual community. We've selected this as a spiritual family, and then to be in the heart of hearts with each other. And so to have that social engagement, to have that support, and to cherish family. And also to eat a plant-based diet. And I remember that yesterday at the Infinite Wellness program we had with Dr. Wong, she was also talking about that. So the information's out there. It's just a matter of eliminating what stands in the way of that and making that lifestyle so easy that it's the first choice. It's the very first choice. So the Sardinians, what they do is they honor family, and they eat some whole grains, and they let women run the home. They also stay very active. They, at 90, whatever, 100 years old, they're out there, they're chopping wood, they're carrying water. They live in a community which has been just very natural. A lot of them are shepherds, so they have some moderate exercise. It's not like they're running marathons or they're working out in the circuit training, although we do have Pilates classes here, which that's on Monday and Thursday nights. The Sardinians, I think now it's different than who are those people on TV, the reality TV? Kardashians. It's not the Kardashians. But I can imagine they would be able to do our Power Sculpt class at 90 years and 100 years old. They stay active just as a natural part of the way they live. It's just their natural tendency. And then there's also the Seventh-day Adventists in Loma Linda have a holistic lifestyle as well, and they also have faith. So they're a faith-based tradition, and then they stress holistic health. So they do a lot of the same things that the folks in Italy do, and then that a lot of the folks in Okinawa, which is a bunch of these little tiny islands off of Japan. And they subscribe to something that Confucius, not confusion, but what Confucius said was, that fortune cookie you get Confucius say, as far as they stop, it's called Ikegai. Oh, pardon my Japanese. Ikegai is the reason for which you live. They invite people to live a purposeful life. The reason for which you live. And the Okinawans, it's like holding because they're so old, they live so long, it's the great grandkids, like holding that grandkid in your arms. That's the reason for which they live. And they have circles of friends called the moye. They have a circle of friends that they can trust and who are trustworthy. And they can just sit around and be genuine and authentic and share their sense of wellness in addition to whatever condition is going on in life, and to know that they're supported by a bunch of friends. And in America, it says we have usually 1.5, I don't know about the 0.5, but 1.5 to 3 really, really close friends. I don't know about that 0.5. Have you met? So many of us are fortunate when we have a circle of friends. They have about at least a half a dozen or more that they just love totally and who love them for who they are. Hazel, who lived to be 102, she was my dad's mom. I watched her, and I could just imagine her. She was this little tiny size 4. Her name's Hazel. And this little tiny size 4, they homesteaded in Colorado, just north of here. And I could see her out there with the, chopping wood and hauling stuff and carrying water. And she was the best baker, and everything was from scratch. And it's much like the Sardinians, that everything is just from scratch. And that she was always active and always moving and having a great time. So what these characteristics are is there's 9 things that are in common, and there's no test at the end. But even if you left with one idea that we could eliminate what stands in the way of that and incorporate and embrace that way of optimal living, optimal lifestyle. It's not the blue shoes at top, but it's the blue zones, and by Dan. And it's shared traits of the world's longest lived people. So number 1, they move naturally. And as I was setting up things with Ava this morning, we were like moving naturally, and to just have that be in flow. So the world's longest lived people, they don't necessarily pump iron or run marathons, but they stay active. And then they have these environments that are set up to nudge them into that. It's natural, like I'm noticing I need to rake leaves now that the fall colors are falling. And it's just natural that I'm looking forward to that. It is kind of zen for me to be out there raking the leaves. So they have this environment, this supportive environment in this culture that nudges them just gracefully into action. So it's not having to effort or make something happen. And they just do this natural movement without thinking about it. Number 2 is they have that purpose, like the Okinawans. They, how do I wake up in the morning? What am I jazzed about? As I was getting up this morning, I, placed my hand on my heart, and what am I jazzed? I'm so looking forward to being here, and what am I jazzed about? How am I being in the world? What am I up to? And so how do we wake up in the morning? And just knowing what our sense of purpose is with some anticipation. So we have our purpose. We also can downshift. Now, I drive an automatic car because I'm shiftless. You didn't know I was shiftless, did you? We have all these spiritual tools where we can downshift and have some downtime to recharge and renew. We can have the life visioning process that we do. We can meditate a bit more. We can be prayerful about our life. And that also adds up to our life expectancy as well. So knowing that we have some stress, and sometimes chronic stress, which may have a face to it sometimes. It may have a situation to it. It may have something internal to it that we want to work with and listen to. It sometimes leads to inflammation, whether that's internal or external inflammation. So we want to be able to downshift and to de-stress. The world's longest lived people have an environment where they can reduce, and tools where they can reduce their stress. They also have an 80% rule, which Hara-Hachibu, you ready? You all want to say that? Hara-Hachibu. Hara-Hachibu. It's the Okinawans. They say this mantra before every meal. And so before every meal, they have a way of life that they have usually a still way of just approaching their way of having nutrition benefit them, and to set that intent. They also have smaller plates, instead of the big American supersized plates. They also they put it on the counter and then they take it back up so that it's not like a lifelong buffet or whatever. So they stop eating when they're 80% full. And that's because it takes a while for our stomach to send that message to our brain that they stop eating when their stomachs are 80% full. So that's the Hara-Hachibu, and that also had to do with some not confusion, but Confucius way of thinking and holistic ways of thinking. They also have a plant slant. That's the cornerstone of most 100-year-olds, that they would have typically, maybe even some meat as a condiment, rather than just like the big focus, that concentrated thing, and maybe only like 5 times per month or less, as far as what Dan's research says. So, and then they also may have an adult beverage, but mostly with friends. Mostly with friends as a social, just a social place to share. And then 7, that they belong. They attend faith-based community events like this. They attend to their sense of belonging and connection, and they also know that it adds. If you're here 4 times or more a month, if you're here, and it's not an advertisement, it's just a truth. If you're here doing something spiritual 4 times a month in community, it could add 14 years to your life. 14 years. That's a lot. That's a lot. And quality that adds up to quality time to nurture ourselves and be well and have well-being. So number 8 is loved ones first. They put their family first, and to commit to whatever the life partner is, or to the children, and to commit to having that lifelong enrichment and sharing and caring. And so number 9 is the right tribe for these 3 communities that were studied. It's the world's longest lived people choose who they're around. We choose our family. We choose the gifts that we bring. We choose that welcoming and that empowering and that nurturing of this instrument of wellness. So we support those healthy behaviors here, and we know that in this spiritual community that right here, right now, we're adding to our life expectancy because we're about action. We're doing it right here and now. It's what's happening now. So the more years, the more life, and the more that we're living this nurturing place of wellness, the more life we add to our years. It's not necessarily that we're adding years to our life, but we're adding more life to our years, right? I see some nods. That's good, some nods. And Ralph Waldo Emerson, which is where Dr. Ernest Holmes gathered a lot of the teaching from in transcendentalism and transcending those conditions that we were talking about earlier, Emerson reminds us, he said, to be grateful. Simply, be grateful. Whether that's writing a thank you note each day, to look for something to be to be thankful for, and to be grateful. And Emerson says that for each new morning with its light, for rest and shelter of the night, for health and food, for love and friends, for everything thy goodness sends, to just remember, yes, it is all good. It is well with my soul. It is well with my heart. It is that place where I can be in gratitude and stay in touch with that sweet spot of life and be thankful, full of thanks, grateful, be full of the greatness of life. And I'm reminded of my mom. I would find her in the morning about 6:30 in Southern California. She would be dancing in the bathroom. And she would be dancing, getting ready, preparing for her day, and she would listen to Dr. Hornaday, who had followed Dr. Ernest Holmes. Dr. Hornaday was at Founders Church of Religious Science in Los Angeles. And so he was on the radio about 6:30, and then Dr. Frank Richelieu followed him about 6:45. She would wake up on the weekdays, they would have a radio program, and she would be dancing with these two men in the bathroom. And I think I'm turning into my mom. I was dancing with, Wayne Dyer and Deepak Chopra and all these other folks, Dr. Oz, because we were talking about wellness today. Who wouldn't like to dance with Dr. Oz, But it was wonderful. I grew up with that. And Dr. Frank Richelieu said, as far as adding life to our years, he said, what you adore becomes more. What you adore becomes more. And I have one more story. You ready for one more? It's true. There's a gentleman who he was having some hearing problems, so he went to get some help with some hearing problems, and so he got that, he thought, resolved. And then he went to his cardiologist, and they set him on a path of wellness and optimal lifestyle, and he had a whole bunch of homework, much like these communities and these 9, or if we're minus that 6th one, these 8, 8 plus 1 things. And then he went back and to give his report, and he says, well, here, and he's got some really gorgeous gal, like right out of Cosmopolitan magazine, the cover gal from Cosmopolitan, shows up at the doctor's office, and he says, well, looky here, I got this gal on my arm. And the doctor said, well, what do you think I said? And he said, well, I thought you said I should get a hot mama. And he says, well, I said that you had a heart murmur. But there he was. He had changed his lifestyle. He changed his lifestyle, and he had a hot mama. So it's in our listening to our wellness. And what I'd like to do is just invite us to join in that listening of that inner wisdom that we all have and that we walk out of here with today, to know that today is the absolute best ever, the best ever day. So to know that we have that place where there is the infinite wellness, the infinite wisdom and being in this place of divine guidance, divine inspiration, knowing that there is one life. And that life is Spirit's life. And that life is whole and well and attuned and finely tuned. Knowing that there is the quality time, and that time is absolutely infinite and divine timing, and knowing that there is the divine true action and that which is well in our lives. There is that which is the creative action in the Spirit. So being in the Spirit, I know that I am absolutely in the unity, and it is a meaningful place of connection, of belonging, knowing that I absolutely belong to this universal presence and essence, knowing that it is of the divine nature in, through, as, and all around me. And as I know that I am connected, that each and every one here is connected in this community and our greater community, reaching as far as Sardinia and as far as the Kardashians and as far as the Okinawa, knowing around the globe and on the West Coast and in the Northwest, in the Southwest, in the U.S., knowing that we are in our hearts extending this wellness and wholeness and these loving thoughts of being vibrant, and in the vibrant vitality and radiant health and well-being, knowing that we can choose and we are choosing this optimal lifestyle. And it truly makes a difference as we breathe and remember who we truly are. We take time to walk in joy, to walk in love, to walk in peace, knowing that there is a peaceful way, there is a beautiful way in giving forth of this divine energy. And I'm so grateful for this quality time together, knowing that it is Spirit having its way with us and being stayed on that very presence and essence, being in this beautiful, that which is beautiful and true, full of beauty and bountiful, good. It is so good. And so I release this word into the law, knowing that it is carried forth and it is done and is beautiful and true. And so be it, and so I celebrate, and so it is. Please join in a few moments of silence.